My first question to myself when I started playing this game was, is Silent Hill even a real place? What's the evidence to support that it even exists? Perhaps it's merely a manifestation of the human mind, how it thinks, how it behaves, how it refuses to deal with loss. Maybe a place of refuge when you're lost in your own mind. And while the creators of the game made it certain that it is indeed a real place, this is the theory that I largely spent the game playing with. But maybe that is also what makes this game so special. What I believe Silent Hill to be, maybe it changes its shape exactly to that. The possibility of each player coming to their own conclusions, but certainly one common effect it had on all its players. It's that it forced them to think, to try to make sense of what the creators possibly could have thought of during the making of this game. Or rather, why did they even create such a game which to many would not even begin to make any sense? This is a rare phenomenon in gaming, in an industry that is beginning to rely more and more on handholding its players to every aspect of its game, an industry full of safety nets where creativity is lost in corporate meetings. This is the courtesy of a new generation of hardware for people like me who grew up in the early 2000s to experience the greatness of Silent Hill 2 in today's age. Maybe for once we got a remake that actually needed to be shown to an entirely new generation of gamers, to show them what games were achieving decades ago, but unfortunately can rarely achieve today. How video game stories were showing the world that this is a medium that is made for stories to flourish. How video games are the best place to root its players in the shoes of these characters and make them feel their pain beyond a screen, beyond a mirror that starts this game. At first, this scene might come off as nothing too deep, but after playing the whole game, I believe it's the beginning of a new cycle of the same old things. The same old rejection of the tragedy that befell James. To me, he is stuck in a circle of having to deal with the loss of his wife. It's the denial that perpetuates this ongoing cycle that seems unbreakable, endless even, just like Silent Hill itself. Maybe this is the only time that James sees himself, his actual self that deep down knows exactly what happened, but just can't seem to accept it, no matter what. His stare into the mirror is a reflection of his ongoing descent into his mind hive of pain and trauma. Once again, a never-ending cycle of denial. Initially, James Sunderland might come off as an everyman archetype. So does this town, leaving you to your own interpretations of what's about to unfold. But as it does unfold, you realize that James is everything but your typical hero whose journey to this town brings him with no heroic intentions. The town is not really as simple as its streets might force you to think. It goes deeper and deeper into the psyche of our protagonist, just like whom the town has also built huge walls around itself, a fortification of some sorts to shield an unbearable, ugly truth beyond. But of course, you can't shield it for much longer. It's a hook barbed with ambiguity, fog, death, trauma, and pain. I didn't have any thoughts initially that James might have killed his wife himself, but I did know for sure that it was almost a guarantee that James won't find Mary here. Like I said, through most of my playthrough, I believed Silent Hill to be an illusion in itself, a passage of grief for James to accept the death of his wife. Perhaps the psychological themes at play here are just a depiction of the state of mind of our protagonist. And all of that begins the moment you enter this haunted place. This first interaction with Angela is a compilation, or rather a personal labyrinth of guilt, trauma, and its subsequent repression by both of these characters. They first meet in a graveyard, a place full of who knows how many unfinished dreams, promises, and amidst it all, James and Angela arrive in the town with the hope of finding their loved ones, and finally moving on. One of the other things that I believed was that Mary was connected to all of these characters you find in the town in some fashion or another. A very deliberate attempt by the developers to portray Mary as Angela's mama in this conversation. This is largely done to let the players think they know what's about to happen in this story, to let them feel they understand the plot, and then, of course, diverge from it.
I'm looking for Someone. Someone very important to me.
Me too. I'm looking for my mama. My mother. It's been so long since I've seen her.
Again, it's a deliberate attempt to subtly plant subtext, clues, or setup. It's not just random ambiguity, but rather a structured plot to foster a false sense of plot comprehension, only to shatter it later. It's a classic example of narrative misdirection, a red herring it's called. It's named after the old hunting trick of using smoked herring to throw off scent hounds. In writing, it's used to mislead without feeling cheap, often by weaving it organically into the story's fabric, so it feels like foreshadowing. Almost every piece of media you've ever experienced uses it in some manner. Usually there is a huge mislead at the start, only to be followed by an epic revelation about the false leads. Maybe that's where Silent Hill differs though. There is no epic revelation about the truth. It's all about how you choose to interpret it. Or maybe the truth isn't worth the glory of a revelation to begin with. You think of Mary as a maternal figure tying everyone's traumas together, like a cosmic family reunion gone wrong. This forces you into thinking that you got the plot. Oh, it's all about repressed familial sins converging on James' wife, only for the divergence to hit. The characters' stories are thematically similar but isolated, each a solitary hollow chamber of personal hell, each with its own version of Silent Hill. Now, writers love this trope. It exploits pattern-seeking brains. We love connecting dots, creating that aha rush before the gut punch reveals. In games, however, it feels even more personal, because interactivity makes this falsehood feel player-discovered, especially in a game so focused on personal interpretation of its themes and overall narrative. Even more so, it increases the value of subsequent playthroughs. One more thing that I noticed is that Angela is largely always apologetic for things she otherwise shouldn't be for, or that she apologizes for things normal people wouldn't. It feels like a compulsion that she can't silence. It becomes a part of her script for survival, where normal people would brush something like that off without self-recrimination. For Angela, though, apologies are the way of life. It's like she has to apologize even for breathing in the same space as someone else. This isn't politeness amplified by anxiety. It's a psyche scarred by betrayal, a desperate bid to perhaps rewrite her story of worthlessness, to finally feel valued. Psychologically, it stems from the toxic alchemy of childhood abuse, maybe even maternal gaslighting. Perhaps for her, the fog of Silent Hill is a blanket profound with internalized shame. Even in this initial interaction, she very well considers the danger of this fog. She can see it, she can feel it filled with the shame she is long subjected upon herself. In these abusive environments, especially incestuous ones like Angela's, the victim learns that confrontation, fight, or escape, flight invites escalation, more violence, more isolation, and so the only solution you're left with is to apologize, or to minimize your presence. Apologizing fits this perfectly. It's a submissive signal. When you're just broadcasting, I am no threat, I'm small and I'm sorry, evolved from childhood bids to fulfill her father's rages or her mother's cold indifference. When this happens with James, however, he tries to comfort her by telling her that it's okay. For once, she has not offended the man standing in front of her by her mere existence. But Angela refuses to jump out of that state of survival. She thinks being sorry will buy her the mercy she needs for survival. It's become muscle memory from nights where any perceived badness, her mere existence, her cries, triggered assaults. And so to prevent anything like that to happen with James, she just apologizes, hoping that it buys her just enough time to survive and find her mama. But in truth, it always just further deteriorates her condition, approving her of her preconceived assumption that being sorry will not offend other people of her existence. In some way, how this entire game is a challenge for James to break out of that cycle of guilt and lies, maybe for Angela, Silent Hill is a challenge to finally come to terms with her existence, of what she has been through, and maybe finally to let it all go. But she doesn't, or rather cannot, because the extent and the roots of her trauma are far reaching. For survivors of familial abuse, even moving on often morphs into traumatic invalidation, where the abuser rewrites the crime as the victim's fault. You made me do this because you're dirty, or that you deserved what happened, turning the victim's body and by extension her entire being into a site of contamination. Apologies then become the only way to atone for this imagined sin without resolution, because true forgiveness would require dismantling the shame's architecture, which by extension also applies to the rest of these characters. A lot of this just mirrors and morphs the world too. How you literally dismantle the world before moving to the later sections of the story. The more you dismantle, the more the world opens up to you so that you can move on. If only these characters applied this logic in their lives too, maybe everything would have been better. If Team Silent intended this as a portrait of the unseen survivor, well, they absolutely nailed it. Her apologies aren't strategic, they are natural, leaking out because silence feels like blaming the other person when you believe that you yourself triggered your trauma by being unlovable. A lot of my interpretations are a little too subjective, attached to how I see this game, this story, and this world. Despite the fact that the original came out decades ago, I'm not aware of the context surrounding this game related to developer commentaries or interviews, as again, these are strictly what I believe to be the intentions of the developers behind certain scenes and tropes. So it's possible that I interpret something in a way that's already been confirmed to not be canon. Nonetheless, this is not the last time we will see of Angela. We will continue to meet her throughout the story as her own story of abuse progresses. As we move deeper into the heart of the town, we go through a series of passages. One of these takes you to a dead nursery. Everything here is long gone. The petals of flowers have long faded away now, sucking any and all color out of this town, and from the lives of everyone coming in this town. In a way, it amplifies the entirety of Silent Hill. This is a common theme in this game. You might think that you're exaggerating the meaning and existence of simple objects in this game for a greater purpose, but everything kind of does exist for a greater reason, one that you perhaps cannot decode in a single playthrough. A lot of this for James is the weight of his unlived future, his unmet desires, perhaps even the couple's need and longing for a child is also a continued representation in many objects. Maybe even in a way it's projected in the first enemies you encounter in the game. When you consider these enemies as a manifestation of meat, sickness, and death, who happens to have a bump near its abdomen, it doesn't become so far-fetched to think that this is indeed a version of Mary to James. In reality, we are continuously given hints in this game that James hated Mary, especially her sickness. He always wondered what she could have been, but she was just a colorless, faded, sick version of what James always wanted, just like the plants of this nursery. The only colorful thing, or rather person, that you meet in this game is surprisingly Maria, which again isn't far-fetched to think that it's a direct contrast to Mary. She's what James wanted Mary to be. There's a catch though, Maria isn't real. That's confirmed as per the best of my knowledge. Now this is one of the things that I got to know after the completion of my game, which largely changed my interpretation of this character. So it's well established now that Maria is a hyper-objectified version of Mary. Again, one of the many other clues that the game gives us that we aren't exactly in the shoes of a heroic person. She's just a manifestation of a man's desire, produced by the town to both fulfill those desires, but also punish him for having them in the first place. It's a weird moral question. Is it okay for a man to desire from his sick, dying wife? Sure, it's his maternal duty to first ensure the best of her health, but What kind of person does it make James for hating Mary not being able to conceive a child? The game largely says that it's for you to decide. There's a lot to unpack in the way they portray Maria, though, and it feels straightforward. Here's a scarred woman who needs protecting, and James, our main character, steps up like the good guy he seems to be. As a player, you're right there with him, controlling his actions, so it hits close to home. You might think James is a devoted husband, and he's here searching for his wife. No way he'd even glance twice at this other woman. His lines reinforce that. He keeps bringing up Mary, brushing off Maria's flirty comments with awkward politeness. It paints him as this tragic, loyal everyman, a guy who's hurting but holding it together, focused on finding his wife. You feel for him, and Maria? She's just a side character, maybe a temporary ally or a plot device to ramp up the tension with the monsters. But then you finish the game, maybe watch some breakdowns online or replay it with fresh eyes, and bam, everything flips. That loyal husband image crumbles, and James starts looking a lot more complicated, even flawed in uncomfortable ways. Maria isn't random. She's basically a custom-made fantasy version of what James wished Mary could have been. Think about it. Mary in the flashbacks we get is sweet but fragile, worn down by her long illness, pale, tired, stuck in the bed, her personality dimmed by the pain and meds. He loved her once, sure, but the sickness changed everything, turning their marriage into a grind of caregiving and unspoken frustrations. What if she hadn't gotten sick? What if she'd stayed the fun, energetic partner from their early days? The one who could laugh, travel, maybe even start a family without all the hospital drama. That's where Maria fits in perfectly. She's like Mary upgraded and idealized. Same name, a close twist on Mary, similar face and voice, but with all the problems fixed. She's got that playful energy Mary lost, teasing James, striking confident poses, moving with a swagger that screams vitality. No cuffing fits or IV drips here, but still cracks jokes and flirts like it's a date. On your first playthrough, you might dismiss it as the town's weird magic messing with his head. But knowing the full story, it's clear that James is drawn to her because she represents the life he feels cheated out of. The healthy, passionate relationship that got stolen by Mary's disease. It's not outright cheating. She's a manifestation of his guilt and denial after all, but it's emotional infidelity. He's chasing a what-if version of his wife while ignoring the real pain he caused her.
Every day I stare up at the cracks in the ceiling, and all I can think about is how unfair it all is.
It's kind of those stories where the more you learn about the protagonist, the more you realize that they might not have the best of intentions. For a lot of players, this makes James more human, not less. He's not a villain, but he's no saint either. Just a regular guy whose love got tangled up in selfishness and denial. Like how caregivers can burn out and harbor secret resentments. Or how we all idolize lost loved ones to cope. Maria's role keeps the game replayable because she changes how you experience that whole story. First as empathy bait, then as a mirror to James, and maybe your own flaws. Then there's the denial, the big one that the game hammers home. He tells himself he's here for Mary, clutching that letter like a lifeline. But deep down, it's just avoidance. He choked her to death, ended her suffering, yeah, but also his own, out of a mix of mercy and exhaustion. And instead of facing that guilt head-on, he wanders into Silent Hill chasing ghosts and mirages like Maria. It's flawed because it's so normal. We all dodge tough truths sometimes, rewriting memories to sleep at night. James' version just spirals into a delusion. This baggage kind of reminds me of the inevitable slide of the fall. Playing Silent Hill 2 in autumn hits different. The game's perpetual twilight. It almost feels less like fiction and more like a seasonal mood board. Thinking about it, Silent Hill's nature is this eerie, overgrown decay. abandoned parks with swings creaking in the wind. The whole town is like a once vibrant postcard left out in the rain too long. Fall does the same to the real world. Trees explode in reds and oranges, a last hurrah of color before the drop. In a way, the game also deals with this concept of fleeting beauty. Mary, who was once enough in everything that James wanted, just faded away with her eventual decay and illness. Early autumn days has mild days, but as October deepens, winds pick up and the darkness clouds your every way. That cycle isn't renewal, it's a reminder. Leaves fall, die, fertilize the soil for the next spring. But maybe Silent Hill is stuck in a loop, no rebirth, just an eternal fate. Psychologically, it's spot on for the game's themes of loss. Fall forces us to confront impermanence, the way James can't outrun his past. Largely, the game introduces all of its main cast before opening up the walls of the Silent Hill, meaning that it also introduces Eddie, who's like that awkward, overlooked guy from high school who snaps up one day and you wonder, how did it get this bad? Initially, you might write him off as a comedic relief written by the developers. But the more you play the game, the more you realize that he is much more of a tragedy than you realize. Like I and many more people who love and analyze this game have said before, everything has a meaning behind it. And Eddie in this game is a manifestation of bottling up all your insecurities, letting them live and breathe in your mind until they start eating you one day. How long can you really put it off? It's for James to learn that if he keeps shoving down the truth, one day he might turn up like Eddie, who isn't evil, but rather broken. If only he had dealt with the insults he'd received all his life up front, not through violence, but rather by improving himself. Maybe the results would have been different. Maybe he wouldn't have had to come to Silent Hill. But instead, what he does end up doing is exactly what most of these characters do. There is no scope of improvement for these people, no room for them to learn, to change. They all just keep making the same mistakes over and over. And the result is the inevitable cycle of death and decay. Silent Hill doesn't glorify this rage, it dissects it, showing how unchecked hurt turns you into the monster you fear. Replay the game and his kitchen scene shifts from funny to foreboding. You see the cycle James flirts with, Angela embodies, all of them feeding the town's hunger. Makes you think, what's your Eddie moment? The grudge you once let linger. For James, this question of similarity is quite thoughtful. Both of these people are running from what they've done. James killed his wife, Mary, but he tells himself it was mercy because her cancer was so bad. But really, it was a mix of love and selfishness. He was tired of watching her suffer and of his own life falling apart. Instead of grieving openly or getting help, he pretends it didn't happen that way. Her wife's old letter that he takes with himself everywhere acts like it's proof everything's fine. Eddie downplays what he did too, multiple times in fact. I didn't do anything, they pushed me, acting like it was self-defense, not murder. For both, it's classic denial. They rewrite the story to make themselves the victim, because admitting the truth would mean facing how much they've hurt others and themselves. Then there's the anger. James is mad at Mary's illness for ruining everything, their marriage, their dreams of kids and vacations, turning him into a full-time nurse he never wanted to be. He doesn't yell about it, he simmers, snapping in arguments or zoning out during her bad days, wishing for the old Mary back. Eddie? His anger is from being the constant punchline, the fat kid who eats to feel better but gets mocked for it anyway. They both feel robbed in some way. James by a disease he couldn't fight, Eddie by the people who made him feel worthless. And neither of them handle it well. No talking it out, no therapy. They just isolate, letting the bitterness grow. The town picks up on this and throws it back at them through monsters. James faced the Pyramid Head. Eddie has to continuously deal with the violence he's unknowingly become a part of. It's the game's way of saying, this anger, it's yours. Deal with it. And by extension, James as well, the player who also have to face this undealt guilt through violence. Ultimately, the controller becomes an extension of Silent Hill. It isn't just a story you watch, it's one you live through the controller. And that's what makes it impossible to replicate it in a movie, book, or any other passive medium. From the moment you pick up the controller, whether on the original PS2 or the remake, the game hands you James Sunderland's limitations. It's not smooth, empowering gameplay like modern action titles. It's deliberately awkward and restrictive, forcing you to feel vulnerable, frustrated, and complicit in its nightmares. Its interactivity isn't a flaw, it's the secret sauce that could only work in a video game. Searching apartments room by room becomes tedious because it's meant to be. Reading a tragic note yourself as a form of your own discovery transforms into misery, again as it's meant to be. These mechanisms turn exploration into a dialogue with the game. It hides information, you probe for it, and therefore every discovery, a key in a toilet, a memo in blood, all of it rewards your curiosity. But why could this only be a video game? Passive stories let you observe horror from a safe distance. You empathize but don't really embody. Silent Hill 2 hijacks that safety. Books describe fear. Games make you sweat through it. Even cutscenes feel earned because you navigated to them. The remake modernizes this, better aiming, quick turn button, making it more accessible, but the core magic holds. Interactivity turns symbolism into something you touch and uncover by and for yourself. Even in the later sections of the game, it creates a frustration that is irreplicable in any other medium. The last few hours of gameplay do not introduce any new mechanic to make the gameplay fresh. The continuous search of these structures for seemingly never-ending puzzles starts taking a toll on you. And as defensive as it may sound, this is the reality of being James Sunderland. There is no new mechanic for him to make this quest enjoyable or even bearable. You can see it in his eyes. He doesn't like it one bit. Just like you as a player are frustrated, specifically with this part of the game. The fact that I completed this game in just one sitting further goes on to say that I was feeling exactly like James in this section. I was waiting for it to be finally over so that I can lay this depressing and demanding quest down, and none of that comes off in a bad way. Very few pieces of media can ever attempt to make you feel something like that. It really is a very demanding game. It asks a lot from you as a player. It doesn't explain itself very well most of the times. It's not a mechanic-heavy game to distract you from its horror. It's not scary in a Resident Evil kind of way, but it's bleak through and through. Somehow the little amount of entertainment you get in this game is not meant to give you peace or comfort. It's all-consuming. And it's not flawed, but rather a part of its unique design, forcing you to lean in, to invest your brain and heart without distractions. It says travel through this mind person that grows more and more as you explore it. Very few stories risk that level of emotional labor. They comfort to keep you hooked, but Silent Hill 2 trusts you'll stick around for the discomfort. And that trust by the developers is very rare in today's age, especially in 2004. It made me think a lot after I've completed it, honestly. Very few pieces of media are so close to my heart that I actually let them dictate how I see some versions of life, death, and responsibility towards our loved ones. It's a great expression of almost all of that. And not just that, for once I've seen a piece of media expressing the burden of loving and caring for someone. Like, of course, James wants the best for his sick wife, but he just can't take it anymore. It's a tragedy he wished that had not befell upon him. And in the end, he just feels guilty for feeling that way whenever he was with his wife. He believes he can change something, or the way he handles things with Mary, even though she's long gone. It almost makes you think, why would someone want to create an experience that's almost meant to frustrate or annoy you? Aren't games meant to be fun? Is an argument you often hear against games like this. Clearly, the developers wanted this game to be a thinking person's horror, rather than merely relying on jump scares. The idea was to make you question, what would your Silent Hill look like? What's a fear you've internalized so badly that if it comes out, it might erode or scar you forever? But maybe, just maybe, that scar is more honest and peaceful than bottling up your guilt has ever been. They wanted to make history as newcomers, proving games could tackle adult emotions without pandering, solidifying video games as a serious storytelling medium, and the result, of course, was impeccable. Silent Hill 2 indeed is more nuanced than most movies, books, or even games coming out in today's age. As localization producer Dave Cox put it in 2001 interview, the team aimed to push that deep, dark, creeping, insidious terror that has not been tried in video games before. Silent Hill 2 takes that horror genre and video games themselves into a dark and new territory where the imagination is free to run without limits. This is a grown-up game for grown-up people. But once again, the question remains, why did they want to tell this particular story? Why unravel the tragic story of James Sunderland, a man who can be easily perceived as shallow for his selfish desires? It's a question that has remained with me ever since I've completed this game, and suddenly something hit me. Would it have been possible for you to empathize, or even willing to play as James had you known what he did with his wife? Why he killed her, the frustrations he had with her, again, the unmet desires and hopes. Would you have wanted to play this story as a selfish man who killed his wife because he was tired being a nanny and now believes himself to be the victim? After some time, it occurred to me that even the structure of the game is very close to the purpose and aim of telling this story. It's a story that could have had such a profound impact only because of its bait and lie structure. And I can confidently say that it could have only existed as a video game. It's a raw ache from real loss. They wanted to give us a protagonist who was dealing with complex human emotions. And two of the most important characters in this story for this protagonist were going to be Laura and Mary herself. Mary is the core of Silent Hill 2. The game simply cannot exist without her. She and her letter forced James and us to some extent on this journey. A letter that James used to tell himself a lie that sugarcoats the guilt and helps him to pretend that everything is alright. And the fact is that more you play this game, more the letter fades away, more the lies fade away, more the pretense is stripped off, and inevitably reality catches James. Think about how we meet her, not face to face but through fragments, like piecing together a life from a half-burnt photo album. Her words simple and desperate. In my restless dreams, I see that town, Silent Hill. I'm alone there now. It's a hook that feels like a real note from someone you love. Mary was meant to be the woman who fades, not just from disease, but from the weight of unmet hopes. She's vibrant at first, the partner who makes James feel seen, but then the illness creeps in, coughs turning into hacks, hospital smells seeping into their home, her body betraying her bit by bit. Initially, she comes off as a weak, helpless wife stuck in bed. She even apologizes to James in her letter for doing something terrible to him. Again, it's a pattern we see in this game. Victims apologizes to their abusers for doing something they obviously couldn't control. Her illness wasn't something that she did deliberately to herself. And yet she still continues apologizing to the man of their relationship about how she ruined everything, all all the beautiful years they had spent together. She apologized for everything James ever felt because she could see the frustration, the toll of this illness on James, how it forced James to never get the life he rather could have. Again, none of that is her mistake per se, but she's made to believe so with all the growing frustration within James. She believes that she and her unfortunate illness gave birth to a dull, washed out version of herself who used to be full of life. The kind of partner who talked about easy weekends and who knows filling their home with a kid's noise. And now with the illness, James can't even stand her. She knows that. She can see through the cracks. Maybe James was really a kind everyman hero the developers presented him to be in the beginning. But it's about the quiet anger that built up in those last weeks. The weight of not ever saying words like, why her, why us, that soured his kindness. The slow grind of days changed their house into sick rooms, drawing any color or happiness out. A sick room full of dead flowers, indeed. Mary captures that split. She's a victim of her body failing her, but also the reflection of James's own mistakes. Her letters call him out, her voice cutting through the noise. You don't need to feel sorry for me, just be here. It's a request he half met. And in Silent Hill, him not being there turns into her being everywhere. But that's not to say that Mary was an angel who had no toll of the disease on herself. She broke a lot of times too, because she wasn't just sad, she was mad too. Again, the frustration of why me, why us, that grew between both of them because they just couldn't sit together for one last time and let it go. Grief doesn't go in straight lines, and love gets complicated. Truth is that James didn't end a perfect life. He stopped the suffering of a woman whose sickness had worn them both thin. Again, this is the moral question that stands tall in the town of Silent Hill. God forbid something terrible happens in an otherwise perfect relationship. How would you take it for who knows how long? If the inevitable end is death, how long can you go before cracking and screaming, "You're the one who could never give me the life I wanted"? Can you take the anger and madness of the ill, knowing that you're the one who will be stranded alone after she's gone? Can you really blame James? Is a question that I could never see myself asking had the truth of James killing Mary been revealed at the start of the game. It's only after playing him for hours upon hours that I can understand and forgive him. Silent Hill exists for us to forgive James and for himself to make an attempt to put this tragedy behind him. Let's unpack this a little more, because rushing it feels a little wrong, considering it's the main question that the game asks. It's like grieving a family that never was. You can tie it straight to James' unlived future. Every aspect of this tragedy is meant to fuel James's caregiver resentment, which makes this mercy killing a little more understandable after you yourself have worn his frustration by the end. How long can you expect someone to hold a perfect relationship after it starts breaking apart? At first, the cracks are quiet, but eventually they start screaming. When someone you love gets sick and you watch them slowly fade away, anger builds on both the sides. Anger at the illness, at the unfairness of it all, and being the one left behind. Should we blame James? If we only looked at the moment with the pillow, yes, but after walking miles and miles in his shoes, running through empty streets, searching for things that barely help, listening to static that feels like loneliness, you start to understand. Forgiving someone doesn't mean pretending they never did anything wrong. It means saying why they broke to begin with. How long can you expect someone to hold together a perfect relationship after it starts breaking apart? This particular caregiver's burden then adds a question to the whole "why us" conversation. It becomes a little selfish to whisper, "Why me?" Even in real life, many caregivers feel this resentment or burnout. Many feel trapped. Some secretly wish the suffering would just stop. For both of them, it's not cruelty, it's exhaustion. I loved her, but some nights I just wanted the pain, hers and mine, to end. That's James not hating Mary, but hating the version of life that illness forced on them, on both of them. The game very well shows this feeling in distorted forms, twisting and objectified nurses, violent monsters symbolizing everything he couldn't express. Then there's the rage of the one who is ill. Mary's hurtful words come from fear. Fear of losing herself, of becoming someone unrecognizable. Caregivers often face this. Loved ones accusing them, screaming at them, even seeing them as the enemy. James wasn't just caring for Mary, he was taking the blows of her fear. His resentment grew because he had to be strong for both of them, even in this last fight with Mary. Understanding this doesn't excuse his final choice, but it does humanize the pain that led to it. The worst part is being alone afterwards. James wandering after Mary's death is the same fog caregivers feel after losing someone. The world goes on, but you're stuck in silence. Survivor's guilt sinks in. I ended something, but did I end a part of myself too? Silent Hill's endings reflects these choices, drowning in grief or choosing to move forward, or even being delusional. Being left alone after losing someone isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, heavy, and constant, and this feeling shows up everywhere. Empty nurseries that hint at futures that never happened. Mary's old recording sizzling like ghosts. James gripping her letter as if it could fill the emptiness she left behind. Imagine James right after smothering Mary. He ends her physical suffering, but now he carries the emotional aftermath slowly, silently. No more caring for her, no more sitting beside her hospital bed, even though it's very clear that James despised that. But now there's only a silent apartment, an empty side of the bed, and memories that won't leave him alone. He goes to Silent Hill not just to meet her. On some deeper level, he's running from being alone. The foggy town seems to promise connection or answers, but it actually does the opposite. It traps him in deeper isolation. The fog hides people and muffles every sound. You and James walk together, but you still feel utterly alone. After hours of pushing through gray hallways and empty streets, feeling like you're waiting for something to end without knowing what. That's what being alone feels like after loss. Time stretched thin, life feeling paused. Loss doesn't cut you off from the world, it cuts you off from connection. We becomes me, and the change feels like a wound you have to keep reopening just to understand. Her sickness created this isolation in stages. First physically, she's stuck in bed while he wanders a house that suddenly feels too big. And then emotionally, her anger, fear, and pain push him away. By the time she dies, James isn't free. He's abandoned, not by Mary, but by the version of life they once shared. It's a depiction of extreme isolation, never seen before in entertainment. Many caregivers who face their resentment before the loss grieve more peacefully afterward. One way to heal is to acknowledge the unlived parts of the life, dreams that died with the illness, and find ways to honor them instead of burying them. And that's where Laura fits in perfectly, an 8-year-old girl. She isn't a hallucination like Maria, nor is she haunted by monsters like James or Angela or Eddie. She's just a normal child, wandering a nightmare without being touched by it. Laura came to Silent Hill searching for Mary, who treated her like a daughter while they were both in the hospital. But unlike James, who carries crushing guilt, Laura carries hope, stubbornness, and innocence. innocence. It's a trope once again used by writers to trap the audience. It's natural for us as humans to project our own life and our own values into what we watch, play, and listen to. And so when a child first comes to our screen, we instantly change our behavior about how we perceive this world. Suddenly, we are willing to forgive the stubbornness of a person, even if it frustrates us. Had it been a grown-up who would have left James in a room to die, surely there would have been some consequences to follow. But again, Laura is just a child who shouldn't be here, or as we're told by our values. At first, she too seems like a simple comic relief. She locks James in her room, kicks keys out of his reach, and insults everyone she meets. But her role is much bigger than just being a mischievous kid. She embodies the game's themes of innocence, truth, and the pain that grief leaves behind. She's the only character who confronts James honestly, without filters or fear. In a world where adults are swallowed by their own demons, somehow a little kid is the one person untouched by Silent Hill's cruelty. The game never exactly tells us Laura's full past, but again, as everything else in this game, what we do know is enough. Mary was exhausted in pain, lonely and frightened. Laura brought life back into her life. For Laura, who had no parents, Mary became the first adult who truly cared for her. Their unexpected relationship grew into something tender and safe. A mother and daughter bond that illness could not erase, which is difficult to say for her relationship with James. Mary shared stories of the time she and James spent in Silent Hill, painting the town as a peaceful escape. She told Laura about the lake, the hotel, and the happy memories she once had. These stories became Laura's whole image of the town, a beautiful place where Mary said she'd go after she got better. She even wrote Laura a letter asking her to forgive James's distant behavior and telling her plainly that she loved her like her own child. Mary wanted to adopt her. This letter then becomes the heart of Laura's mission. She believes Mary is waiting for her in Silent Hill. When we first meet her and she kicks the key away from James, she isn't just being annoying, she's testing him. Her accusation, "You didn't love Mary anyway," hits deeper than James wants to admit. This moment also pushes him into the section where he first meets Pyramid Head. Laura unknowingly sends him into the part of the town where his guilt is waiting. After James watches the videotape revealing the truth, he smothered Mary, Laura enters full of hope. When he tells her the truth, she explodes. "You killed her. Why? Give her back." This is the emotional core of her story. Laura loved Mary, and she believed James would bring her back to a new life. That hope is shattered in seconds. Her screams echo through the room long after she leaves. This moment transforms her from a teasing kid into a grieving child.
Liar! That's a lie!
No. It's the truth.
She died because she was sick?
I killed her.
Perhaps it's not far-fetched to say that it's part of the reason for the destruction of the world that follows in the hotel after this cutscene. It's easy to say that Laura is a child who perhaps can't even understand the concept of death as of yet. And maybe that's the reason why there doesn't exist a tragic version of Silent Hill for her. When she breaks down in room 312, we finally see her raw grief. It's the first time she feels the utter realization of loss, perhaps even guilt. But Laura is not James's judge. She is his second chance. If he can protect her and accept the truth, he can still live. Each of the game's detailed endings become what you choose throughout the game. Surprisingly, and I didn't know why, but I got the Maria ending, which is also kind of called as the worst ending in the game, and understandably so. But I also got really confused about this ending, and it felt really untrue to me. It's a continuation of that delusion that James already goes through in the game, a continuation of the lies that he told himself, which makes you think that the many bodies of James you encounter in the game are just some versions of himself who wander Silent Hill again and again because they focused on the wrong things, like somehow I did since I got this ending. Mary's apologies in Silent Hill 2 show the same broken mindset we see in Angela. Both of these women blame themselves for things that weren't even their fault. Mary says she's sorry for being like this, as if her illness was something she chose. She feels James pulling away, their home becoming a place filled with sadness instead of hope. James doesn't hate her. He hates the disease that is slowly taking her away and trapping him in constant caretaking. It's a story about what happens when two people are crushed by long, painful suffering. James takes it all in until he breaks, convincing himself that suffocating her and himself is an act of mercy. The game doesn't condemn him. It makes us understand why he reached that point. How much pain can love survive? James isn't a monster. He's an ordinary man pushed to a limit some real caregivers quietly admit they've felt. The game asks players, under the same pressure, would you break too? The remake keeps these themes alive with better graphics, atmosphere, and sound. It updates the game without losing what made it special. In a gaming world filled with repetitive, shallow titles, Silent Hill 2 stands out because it focuses on story, emotion, and psychological depth. Many players, myself included, feel deeply changed after finishing it. The fog, the music, and the characters make you reflect on your own life, grief, and relationships. The game isn't just a horror story, it's a mirror. The mirror that started this game. It forces you to look at denial, guilt, and love in many ways most games never attempt. Silent Hill 2 is timeless because grief is timeless. We all have regrets, lost futures, or memories we tried to bury. The game just asked us whether we'll face them or keep running in circles like James. And every time we replay it, we find something new in the fog, something about the characters and something about ourselves. Thank you for watching this video. Big shout out to my friend who got me into Silent Hill 2. And he also got me into Last of Us, which is now my all-time favorite game. That's all I can really say. I really appreciate anyone who have come this far. And again, thank you for supporting this channel.